tuning in to Planetterrian Daily, episode 100. Today is June 24th, 2026. Some interesting findings to cover today. That's episode 100, a big milestone. Thank you for being here. Researchers at an unspecified institution tested flour from Sargassum filipendula in gluten-free cookies and published results in Food Research International. The seaweed addition raised overall nutritional content while improving starch digestibility compared with standard formulations. The study focused on how the flour integrates into baked goods without altering texture unacceptably. The work points to marine-derived ingredients as practical routes to functional foods. No specific sample sizes or statistical values appear in the report. Next steps include scaling production and testing consumer acceptance in larger trials. An international team raised more than 3,000 European sea bass over 10 years across sites in Spain, France, and Brazil. The work documented an initial male bias under elevated temperatures that reversed by the third generation. Temperature continued to shape early sex determination, yet later generations restored a balanced ratio. The pattern points to rapid evolutionary compensation rather than a fixed vulnerability in the species. Now, shifting to a very different area of research. The 10-year sea bass experiment shows that temperature-driven sex bias can reverse within 3 generations, even under sustained heat. More than 3,000 fish were followed across sites in 3 countries, revealing that early male overproduction gave way to balanced or female bias ratios later. This generational compensation suggests some fish populations may buffer against warming-induced collapse through rapid adaptation rather than immediate extinction. The result moves the open question of climate resilience in sex-determining species from fixed vulnerability toward measurable recovery potential. What remains unclear is whether similar multi-generation shifts occur in wild populations under natural temperature fluctuations. Now, here's something most people get wrong about temperature and sex determination in fish. Most people assume that once temperature sets the sex of a fish early in life, the outcome is locked for that individual and its population. In reality, experiments show the initial bias can be offset across generations even when heat stress continues. Right now, as ocean temperatures rise, species like European sea bass are already demonstrating this flexibility in controlled multi-year trials. In one study spanning 10 years and more than 3,000 fish, the strong male bias seen in the first hot water generation had reversed by the third, producing more females again. That generational rebound supplies a concrete number worth remembering. 3 generations were enough for measurable compensation. The practical takeaway is that conservation models should incorporate rapid evolutionary responses rather than treating temperature-sex links as permanent population threats. University of Malaga microbiologist identified an unrecognized process that lets Bacillus cereus assemble protective biofilms. The work, published in Science Advances, shows how these structured communities shield the food-poisoning bacterium from both drugs and environmental stress. The mechanism involves previously undocumented steps in community formation. The discovery highlights potential vulnerabilities in the biofilm assembly pathway. Researchers plan to test whether disrupting these steps restores antibiotic sensitivity. From bacterial survival strategies to another unexpected layer of protection, this time in a material once thought fully insulating. Teams from Tokyo University of Science, University of Tokyo, and Kobe University used ultrasound to observe magnetic quantum oscillations inside the Kondo insulator YB-B12. The insulator lacks free charge carriers, yet oscillations appeared, contradicting standard expectations. The measurements probed the material's response under magnetic fields. The results suggest hidden conducting states within the insulating bulk. Further ultrasound and transport experiments will map the origin of these states, from hidden states in materials to hidden flexibility in how acquired skills reshape the brain. Falk Hudig at the Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics compiled evidence across psychology, linguistics, neuroscience, and education in a new book. Literacy alters language processing, reasoning, and even abilities such as face recognition that appear unrelated to text. The synthesis draws on decades of behavioral and brain imaging data. The account shows how acquiring reading skill restructures multiple cognitive systems. Future studies will test whether late acquired literacy produces similar reorganization, from cognitive reorganization to another long-term evolutionary shift, this time linking brain size to egg size in birds. A new comparative analysis connects larger avian brains to the evolution of relatively bigger eggs. The study resolves why birds produce outsized eggs relative to body size compared with non-avian dinosaurs. Data span multiple fossil and living species. The relationship suggests cognitive demands drove changes in reproductive investment. Further fossil brain reconstructions will test the correlation across additional lineages. From evolutionary trade-offs to a different kind of adaptation, how prolonged drought reshapes elephant ranging. Biologist Irene Baumann at Radboud University tracked elephant movements during varying drought lengths. Short droughts kept animals near rivers with limited overall travel, while prolonged dry periods shifted groups closer to farms and villages. The pattern emerged from direct field observations of the animal's spatial behavior. The findings link climate persistence to human-wildlife spatial overlap. Future monitoring will examine whether these shifts increase conflict frequency, from wildlife movement to human behavior change in everyday systems. University of St. Andrews researchers documented cultural change in Mediterranean sperm whale calls. The endangered population adopts new vocal patterns yet keeps earlier ones, producing measurable dialect shifts over time. Field recordings captured the process in real time across multiple social groups. The study illustrates ongoing cultural transmission in a long-lived marine species. Continued acoustic monitoring will track how dialects continue to diverge. Penn State researchers ran experiments showing that an acknowledgement email alone increases customer returns of used items such as coffee pods and laptops. The effect appeared strongest among participants with lower prior engagement. Multiple trials tested the message against no-contact controls. The approach offers companies a low-cost way to improve circular economy participation. Follow-up work will test message wording variations across product categories. Mayo Clinic researchers published the first atomic-level structure of protein kinase C-beta in Nature Communications. The protein links to cancer and neurological disease. The structure reveals how the breast cancer drug endoxifen binds and inhibits it. The map clarifies the mechanism that had remained elusive. Next work will use the structure to design more selective inhibitors. Researchers examined how mechanical pressure inside mucus affects Pseudomonas aeruginosa, a common hospital and cystic fibrosis pathogen. The pressure alters bacterial physiology in ways that reduce antibiotic efficacy. The study focused on chronic lung infections where thick mucus exerts sustained force. The mechanism ties physical environment directly to treatment failure. Follow-on experiments will test pressure-modifying strategies alongside standard drugs. Scientists are selecting strains of farmed insects that tolerate variable feedstocks and climates. Black soldier flies convert organic waste. Mealworms degrade plastic. Both are under genetic improvement for consistent performance. The effort addresses production bottlenecks in large-scale insect farming. Ongoing crosses will measure gains in survival and conversion efficiency. A management science study found that forecasters and evaluators favor predictions offering any chance of a perfect hit, even when those predictions raise the risk of larger misses. Experiments presented participants with trade-off scenarios between precision and accuracy. The preference for perfect outcomes persisted across multiple domains. The result challenges assumptions in forecasting, training, and evaluation. Future work will test whether explicit accuracy incentives shift this bias. University of Tennessee researchers use single-molecule fluorescence and cross-linking to track TOC34 oligomerization in chloroplasts. The protein complex controls protein import into the organelle that powers photosynthesis. Ligand binding alters the assembly state in real time. The work supplies a dynamic view of the import gate. Next, experiments will link these states to photosynthetic output under varying light. Researchers built an autonomous system that screens hundreds of catalyst recipes and conditions without human intervention. The platform identified formulations offering faster rates, higher selectivity, and on-demand product switching for industrial chemicals. The work targets sectors from fuels to pharmaceuticals. The approach accelerates discovery beyond manual trial and error. Future deployments will expand the searchable reaction space. Next time, we'll be watching for results from expanded trials on consumer acceptance of the seaweed flour in baked goods. That's Planetterrian Daily for today. If you enjoyed this, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify really helps new listeners find the show. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Environmental Intelligence a listen, the Environment and Climate Policy Brief for Canada. You can explore the whole lineup at neurannetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.